Here.
Commissioner Reiner. Here. Commissioner Schulte.
Here.
Commissioner Look.
Here.
Commissioner Gamache.
Here.
Commissioner Jepson.
Here.
Commissioner Meisner.
Here.
Okay, all present and accounted for. We will move on to the next item, which is tax claims and abatements. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Brasted.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schulte. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Reiner.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Jepson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner.
Aye.
Commissioner Brasted.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. We'll move on to the next item, which is consider accepting the regular claims paid over $500 and purchase card claims paid for the period ending September 22nd, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Gamache.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jepson. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Jepson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner.
Aye.
Commissioner Brasted.
Aye.
Commissioner Reiner.
Aye.
And that also passes unanimously. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes from September 26, 2023 County Board meeting. Is there a motion to approve? So moved. Moved by Commissioner Schulte.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jepson. Any additions, subtractions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And those meetings are adopted unanimously. Item 7 is Chair's Remarks, and under Chair's Remarks today is the recognition of some of the men and women who have spent much of their careers dedicated to serving the people of Anoka County. The employees we recognize and honor today have been here for up to 35 years, which is absolutely remarkable. And on behalf of the residents of Anoka County, it is our privilege to thank you publicly today. I'd like to invite Deputy County Administrator Dee Goodman to lead our recognition program. Dee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I call Commissioners, Service Awards, some of our recipients cannot be here today, but I'd like to take a moment and call their name to recognize their service here at Anoka County. For 30 years, Wendy Docherman, Lead Health Care Advocate in Human Services Economic Assistance. 30 years, Daniel Allman, Senior Fleet Technician, Transportation Division, Highway. Michael Barnard, Senior Career Counselor, Human Services, Job Training Center. Craig Christensen, Lead End User Support Engineer, Information Technology. 30 years, Dana Anderson, Senior Eligibility Specialist, Human Services, Economic Assistance, Carol Erickson, Eligibility Specialist, Human Services, Social Services. Pamela Hutson Wright, Senior Social Worker, Social Services and Mental Health and Chemical Health. And 35 years, Priscilla McDowan, Senior Probation Officer, Human Services, Community Corrections.
Let's give them a quick.
Okay, so now we'd like to honor the 14 employees in attendance today. Thank you so much for joining us. As I call your name, if you'd like to come up and accept your award, Commissioner Jepson, you are first to present. Okay, so for 30 years, I have Sherry Baumgartner, Administrative Assistant, Human Services and Child Support. The next for 30 years, I have Carrie Morrissey, Assistant Director, Emergency Communications 911. Thank you. Next up, Commissioner Reiner. I have 30 years, Carrie Volkers, Senior Social Worker, Human Services, Social Services. Next up, Commissioner Meisner. I have 30 years, Peggy Sasick, Senior Accounting Clerk, Finance and Central Services. Next up, I have 30 years, Carrie Sorensen, Senior Social Worker, Human Services and Social Services. Thank you. Next up, Commissioner Gamache. For 30 years of service, I have Dan Peterson, Supervisor, End User Support Specialist in Information Technology. Thank you. Next up, I have 30 years, Kathy Larson, Manager of Administrative Services, Finance and Central Services. All right, Commissioner Schulte. Okay, for Commissioner Schulte, I have 30 years, Glenna Anderson, Legal Assistant 1, Attorney's Office. And next up, I have 30 years, Damon Reyes. Thank you. Equipment Operator, Transportation Division, Highway and Road Maintenance. All right. And one small moment. Okay, next up I have Commissioner Bradstead, thank you. Every year, one of them always gets missed. All right, for 35 years, I have Heidi Meyer, Supervisor, 911 Dispatch, Emergency Communications. 30 years. Now you're seeing a theme with 911.
A tough job.
Val has nothing to do with this, so. And next I have Jody Gorman, Lead Fraud Prevention Specialist, Human Services Economic Assistance. Next, I have Commissioner Look. And I have 35 years, Ann Peterson, Probation Officer for Human Services Community Corrections. Next, I have, 35 years, Jeff McDonald, Supervisor, Social Services, Human Services, and Social Services. And last but not least, 35 years, Dylan Workington, Department Director, Human Services and Community Corrections. Thank you, Commissioners. That's what we have for today.
Thank you, everybody.
Other commissioner comments? Commissioner Schulte.
Yeah, I would just like to make a quick comment. I've been here only 11 years now, but I'm overwhelmed by the sincere devotion that our employees have to their jobs, their fellow workmates, and Anoka County. It truly is inspiring. This meeting every year where we get a chance to recognize you for just one day, for all the days that you come in when you don't feel like you should, when you're tired, when there's so many other places you'd rather be, you come here and you do the job. And I, for one, and I'm speaking on, I'm sure on behalf of our entire board, but thank you. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for staying committed to Anoka County. We'll continue to do our best to make sure that this is the right place for you to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schulte. Commissioner Brasted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that out of everything that we do during the year, this is one of my favorite days. Just a moment when we can stop and thank people for, you know, their years of dedication and commitment. And you're really the boots on the ground. You're in the trenches every single day, and you're so appreciated. We don't say it enough, I know that, but please know that we appreciate you every single day over all these years that you've been with Anoka County. So thank you.
Commissioner Mesh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, it's amazing to see the numbers here, 35, 30 years and all of that, and you realize that that's not happening nowadays. So for the people that might be watching and younger people that are maybe just getting into a career or something like that, this is what it looks like. These great people that spend their entire career perhaps with one company, one business. Yeah, you get to move around to maybe different departments, and I heard some that from some people today that they enjoyed that. But they enjoy the work, they enjoy coming to work, but 35 years and 30 years in one spot's not a bad thing. It's pretty great, as a matter of fact, and I appreciate all of you for that, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Gash. Commissioner Meisner.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I won't repeat all of the great things that my colleagues have said because they're all true, but I like this because I get to learn a little bit. I chat with as many people as I can on this day, and I just want to thank you for sharing your world and teaching me a little bit about how you function at the county and to our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Meisner. Commissioner Jepson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm the new one here. And again, I won't repeat what everybody else said, but I echo all the comments. But being new here at this role and seeing all this room crowded with years and years, and not just the 30 and not just the 35, but some 40 and some 20 and some 1, it gives me so much pride and respect, even more so than I had for this county. So thank you so much for your service. Thank you for all the days, hours, and years that you give to this community, because it is very, very special.
Thank you, Commissioner Jepson. Commissioner Reinert.
Last but not least, I guess. So I've been here 3.5 years now, and I got to tell you, when I got here, I've been in elected office for a long time, 23 or 4 years now. And, you know, when I got here, I was truly, truly impressed by the professionalism and the hard work that everybody does here. And so I just want to say that, and I also want to say ditto to what everyone else said.
I want to take a moment and thank Dee for her hard work in putting this together. Always a fun event. As Commissioner Brasted indicated, it's one of the great times of the year where we can celebrate folks. I'd like to just echo, too, that we're incredibly fortunate to have so many longtime loyal employees in Anoka County. I'm not sure if other counties have that, but we certainly do, and that's a wonderful thing for our constituents in this area. Your breadth of knowledge is impressive, and it's amazing to realize that we are celebrating over 700 years of Anoka County history and expertise. So thank you again for your service, and thank you for allowing us to celebrate you and your tenure here with Anoka County today. Thank you so much. Okay, we will move on to item number 2, which is a resolution proclaiming October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I'll turn it over to Commissioner Reinert, Chair of Human Services, to tell us more.
Mr. Chair. In 2022, Anoka County experienced 574 domestic violence-related law enforcement referrals, and 15% of 8th, 9th, and 11th grade students indicated they had experienced some form of relationship violence. I'll turn this over now to Commissioner Meisner, who has a few words to say about Alexander House.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinert. And, I am just actually sharing the words of Alexandra House. So this is their statement that they wanted to share with our board. So thank you, Anoka County Board, for this critical recognition of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and your steadfast support of our mission. Your dedication to illuminating public spaces in purple during this month sends a powerful message of solidarity. We are incredibly grateful for your leadership on this issue and your commitment to ending violence in our communities. It is disheartening that intimate partner violence is such a prevalent issue. For decades, the statistics have remained stagnant, with 35% of women and 25% of men in Minnesota experiencing physical violence, rape, and/or stalking from their partners at some point in their lives. In the last decade, more than 250 Minnesotans have been lost to domestic violence. In 2022, there were 24 domestic-related homicides in Minnesota, and tragically, 24 lives have already been lost to domestic violence this year. The statistics are a stark reminder of the urgent need for action. However, the responsibility to combat domestic and sexual violence lies with each and every one of us. We must unite to create a community that stands against violence, a community that listens and responds to the needs of our neighbors. Here is our call to action to each of you. Join us in building a violence-free future by displaying a DVAM sign illuminating in your homes in purple and engaging in conversations about domestic and sexual violence. Join us in wearing purple on Purple Thursday, which is October 19th, and show our commitment to ending violence. To find more details on our Domestic Violence Awareness Month efforts, explore our website at www.alexandrahouse.org. Together, we can raise awareness about domestic violence and pave the way for a safer, more compassionate community. Thank you again, County Commissioners, for the opportunity to share with you. Again, that is from Connie Moore from Alexandra House. Thank you, Commissioner Reinert.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Meisner. Whether you realize it or not, chances are you know someone who has been impacted by domestic violence. Anoka County is showing support and shining a light on this critical matter by illuminating several county facilities in purple, which symbolize solidarity with survivors and emphasizes the importance of breaking the cycle of domestic violence. This initiative and the important work being done by the Anoka County Violence Prevention Roundtable not only highlights the problem, but also signifies the county's commitment to preventing relationship violence and creating a safer, more supportive environment for those affected by it. At this time, I'd like to ask my fellow commissioners to please join me in supporting Resolution 2023-110, proclaiming October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Anoka County. And I'd like to move that.
Resolution's been offered by Commissioner Reinert. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner Reinert.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
We will move on to the committee reports, and we will start off with the Transportation Committee report, and Commissioner Breasted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Transportation Committee met on September 27th. We had no public comment. Our first action item is that the committee recommends approval of Resolution 2023-TR38, a no parking resolution restricting parking on or along both sides of CSA 23, which is Lake Drive, from Aqua Lane to CSA 14, which is Main Street, in the city of Lino Lakes. And we have Joe McPherson with us to tell us about this item.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Joe McPherson. I am the Chief Officer of Transportation and the County Engineer. The item that's before you here is a joint effort between the City of Lino Lakes as well as Anoka County to make sure that we're ensuring the corridor is safe. For those that are familiar with that corridor, as you travel from north to south, down by Aqua Lane, it is a narrower 2-lane roadway with shoulders. As you proceed north towards 35W, it transitions into a 4-lane section divided with medians, and it has sidewalks. And then as you continue over 35, past Marketplace Parkway, and you get back up closer to our Main Street or our County Road 14, it narrows back down to a 2-lane corridor with shoulders, and then it also has a lot of residential and commercial access points. So with all those access points comes potential for safety concerns, and we've heard several of those throughout the years. So again, we've worked jointly with the city. They've already passed a resolution supporting no parking restrictions along both sides of the corridor on this section of Lake Drive. And as a transportation division, we support the same action.
Is there an offer of the resolution?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to adopt resolution number 2023 TR 38.
Okay, the resolution's been offered by Commissioner Reinhardt. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, whoop.
Yeah, I just want to mention that this is well needed. Everything that Joe said is true. Obviously lived in the area for 40-some years, and there are parts of this segment of roadway that are very dangerous, and I think this will help. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Item 2.
The committee recommends approval of Resolution 2023-TR39, a resolution authorizing Anoka County to submit a funding application under the Minnesota Highway Freight Program funding solicitation for the construction of an interchange at the intersection of Trunk Highway 65 and CASA 116, which is Bunker Lake Boulevard in the city of Ham Lake. Joe.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I think it's probably important that I step back a little bit too and explain a little bit of the history here with Trunk Highway 65 and all the work that's been done on this corridor to get to this point. So as many of us are familiar with, we just secured a full funding package for a portion of the at-grade signalized intersections to convert those to grade-separated intersections, which will help with congestion, it's gonna help with safety, it's also gonna help reconnect the communities along that corridor. So that's 4 intersections south of Bunker Lake Boulevard. In 2018, MnDOT and then the cities of Ham Lake, Blaine, and Spring Lake Park, as well as Anoka County, embarked on the first of its kind. It was a planning and environmental linkages study. So it's a more in-depth corridor study where they look at all kinds of issues, whether it's safety, environmental, community impacts. We look at things such as watershed impacts. So you look at the full gamut, which is somewhat different than a typical traffic corridor study where you really just look at traffic and safety issues. This looks at many of the community impacts, even right-of-way impacts. So out of that came a series of alternative and concept recommendations for the corridor, and that spanned all the way from 81st Avenue and Spring Lake Park, 7 miles north, all the way up to Bunker Lake Boulevard, which you see on the screen here. And so, like I said, we have a full funding package for what we call that middle section, or segment 2 of 3. We know that there's still work to do on that section 1, which is 81st Avenue and Spring Lake Park, up to approximately 93rd Avenue, just north of Highway 10. That section needs more work. We did have some alternatives that came out of that, but for the benefit of the community and those listening at home, we know that the Pell study south of there is gonna finalize itself here in the next couple months. With that provides us an opportunity to look at the recommendations from the 2 studies, come back to the table with the local agencies and MnDOT and say, how do these 2 mesh together? How are these 2 gonna work? So that needs more work. That really leaves us that segment 3, which involves Bunker Lake Boulevard here. That's why we're going after this right now. I know all of you have received questions on that. We've received questions. This is kind of that low-hanging fruit project that we need to go after right now. So that's the rationale behind this request and why we're moving forward with something north further versus the south segment.
Is there an offer of the resolution?
I'll offer the resolution.
Resolution's been offered by Commissioner Brasted and Commissioner Jepson. Commissioner Jepson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So absolutely support the, moving forward with finding the funding for that intersection. Obviously, it's gonna be a massive bottleneck if we don't do anything with that intersection and only do the segment 2 portion of it. So it just makes sense to wrap it all into a total package of 5 intersections. But I am gonna go a little off track here, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. Could you, since we're on the subject of 65, there's a massive project going on there now between the city of Spring Lake Park, Blaine, and Ham Lake. Can you, if that you're okay with this, explain what that project is, why it's necessary right now, why it's not a colossal waste of money? Because there's a lot of chatter going on right now about on social media. Why in the world are they even bothering doing this when 65 is going to be totally redone in the coming years?
Sure. So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, the project that Commissioner Jepson is referring to is, if you've been on 65 recently, you've seen that there's the orange construction cones up. There's been lane closures. There's actually, this past weekend, there were some closures on the south end of 65. What that relates to is next year they're gonna do a mill and overlay on 65. If you've driven that recently, I know your car can remember going through that because the potholes are large enough, but it needs work. It needs some tender loving care. So next year, the plan is MnDOT's gonna come in with their contractor and they are going to mill and overlay 65 from essentially Highway 10 down in Blaine, all the way up to, I believe it's 217th Avenue in East Bethel. And with that, they're gonna do culvert replacements, which some of those will begin early in the spring. That's the reason for some of these crossover constructions you're seeing today and some of those lane closures. And then you're also gonna see a couple bridge replacements on that project. And so, correct, Commissioner Jepson, it does seem like, why are we doing this? It seems like a waste of money. We know that the condition of that pavement is so bad that something needs to be done for safety, and that's the rationale for this project.
Commissioner Jepson, follow up?
One quick follow-up. So just to confirm that there were some aspects, like you were talking about the bridge repair and the culvert repair or replacements, some of those aspects of the project that are not gonna be done, because it would be a waste of taxpayer dollars to do that work and then go in a couple years and rebuild that road, correct? So there is some cost savings because of the funded segment.
Yeah, correct, Mr. Chair, Commissioner. So, like I said, it's going from approximately Highway 10 down in Blaine, all the way through that section we were just talking about that's fully funded for full reconstruction. Originally, they were looking at replacing those signal systems because they're at about 30 years old. However, as Commissioner Jepson mentioned, those have been pulled out of the scope of this project. In those areas, they're strictly just gonna pay attention to the pavement, which is rutted out, make those improvements, and then they'll go to other areas that are not scoped for larger improvement projects at this time. So you're correct. That area, we've reduced the scope, and it's just the safety improvements that are necessary.
Thanks, Joe.
Commissioner Schulte.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, back to the actual agenda item. I think this is, to me, it's reminiscent of what happened on Highway 10 when Armstrong was done in front of the other intersections, because it was low-hanging fruit, because it was one that needed it, we could get it done. And I think this feels the same way. We're getting ahead of it just a little bit, but it's gonna get that snowball rolling that we talked about on Highway 10 so often, is get that snowball going downhill and it'll get the rest of them done. So,
Yeah.
just thought I'd bring up that correlation.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Schulte. Commissioner Gamache.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to tie in with what Commissioner Schulte said, some people might think this is a little farther up and maybe traffic dies down a little bit. But if you understand the makeup of the area over there, to the west, you have Andover, which is growing, and a lot of people take this exit, Bunker Lake Boulevard, to get home and get to work in the morning. On the other side with Ham Lake, and then the northern part of Blaine, which is growing and still having development going on. So this is kind of like that when they did Highway 10 originally and got 3 lanes up to Hanson Boulevard. And then when you went to Main Street, more traffic came off, and the Round Lake Boulevard, more traffic came off. Well, now we're gonna do 3 lanes to Main Street and then 3 lanes to Round Lake Boulevard because of the development that's gone on in Coon Rapids and Andover and some places in Anoka. So it all kind of fits, and there will be more development going north, I'm sure. Ham Lake is a little bit more larger lots, and East Bethel and those places, so it might be slower. And they're not as suburban, smaller lots like you have in Andover and some places in Blaine. So, but this is a good project to get working on because of just the development that's going to go on in those areas.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that, you know, you remove kind of those obstructions further south and the traffic keeps going north and it's going to hit more obstructions, this being one of them. Crosstown or whatever the intersections are going north is going to see more and more pressures associated with that. And, you know, I think the one thing that we want to keep in mind, we're advocating obviously for Highway 65, it's a state highway. One thing we want to keep in mind is the reason why we advocate for these type of projects is because if 65 doesn't perform well, people find alternative routes such as Radisson, such as whatever other county road they can find or anything else to try and escape the congestion. And so our roads end up getting beat up more, seeing more traffic than maybe they were designed for, whatever the case is, and you start looking at public safety concerns. And so getting 65 to operate the way it should, given our current traffic flows, I think is the catalyst for pushing for these improvements and keeping those improvements going north as, you know, you just kind of, we use the term kick the can, but traffic kind of moves, you know, at that point and creates further upline issues that have to be addressed. So anyways, appreciate everyone's hard work on this. I know everyone's lobbied hard for certainly the dollars we've gotten in, the projects that are standing by, and everyone's kind of got their shoulder to the wheel on this one, trying to get this one done. So great work, everyone. Okay, we've got an offer of the resolution. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That resolution is adopted unanimously. Item 3 then.
The committee recommends approval of Resolution 2023 TR 40, a resolution authorizing Anoka County to enter into a local bridge replacement program agreement with MnDOT for the replacement of the Casa Viking Boulevard Bridge over the Rum River in the city of Oak Grove. Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Members of the board. So this is a project we've talked about numerous times. This is one of those positive notes, positive action items. This is where we are actually receiving state bridge bond funds to help pay for this project. It's going to cover half the cost of the bridge eligible items. So it's approximately $2 million of taxpayer dollars that we don't need to spend on this project. So again, I think this is a positive note. Our team worked on that pretty hard with state aid at MnDOT, so happy to announce this one.
Excellent. Is there an offer of the resolution?
I'll offer the resolution.
Resolution's been offered by Commissioner Gamache. Any discussion on this? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Jepson,
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinert,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
And that passes unanimously. Item 4.
The committee recommends approval of Resolution 2023-TR 41, a resolution authorizing the acquisition of additional right-of-way for the 2024 countywide overlay program in the cities of Andover, Ramsey, and St. Francis. Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. So as she mentioned, this is some additional right-of-way that we're looking towards purchasing now for next year's overlay program. As we work through the program, we continue to look at areas that may or may not need turn lanes, bypass lanes, those types of features. So in this case, this is one of those areas where we're looking at where either it needs a turn lane or in some cases, it might even just be a sightline issue. As you can tell, if you've driven this area on our County Road 7, where 27 ties in, there's a vertical hill there. So there's a vertical curve, and then also 27 comes down at a steep angle. So this area will likely need some clearing, potentially a right turn lane in the southbound direction. So that's the purpose of this request.
Is there an offer of the resolution?
I'll offer the resolution.
Resolution's been offered by Commissioner Gamache. Discussion on this one? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Jepson,
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinert,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye. That passes unanimously. Item 5.
The committee recommends approval to enter into a joint powers agreement with the city of Blaine for improvements to the intersection of Casa 17, which is Lexington, and 131st Avenue Northeast in the city of Blaine. Joe.
Thank you, Commissioner. Members of the board, as you can see on the right-hand side of Lexington Avenue or the east side, you can see that brand-new large development that just recently went in there. Over the course of the last 3 years, a number of homes have gone in there. During the development review process, like we always do, We take a look at what those traffic projections are gonna be and whether or not it warrants the construction of a new traffic control signal system or some other mechanism to control traffic. In this case, it was determined that a traffic control signal was required because of that development. So this joint powers agreement actually relates back to the city and county's responsibilities, both cost-wise and maintenance-wise for the term that the signal's in place. Now, since it was a development-led signal, this is one where the developer picked up the tab on the construction of the signal, and then the city and county will share the cost responsibilities for maintenance of that.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the joint powers agreement?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Jepson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Reinert. Go ahead. Just want to make note that this is a signal, not a roundabout.
Correct.
So it's, you know, some people think we're always going to roundabouts, and but in this case, our evaluation determines that signal is the right solution for this, and that's what we're going with. So, Commissioner Gamache.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Because of the fact that if I'm looking at this and if I'm remembering this road that goes to the west, it is still a dirt road, isn't it?
Correct.
But if I'm not mistaken, that whole area to the west, southwest corner and going down has been kind of pinpointed by the city for development. So we're aware of that project or whatever might be coming up?
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, Commissioner, we've heard a lot of things. You know, the rumor mill gets flying and you hear someone's interested in buying out the whole area there or just a portion. You're correct. Blaine is a hotbed area right now. It's very popular for development. So yeah, we've heard that as well. So another reason for the signal is gearing up for the future. We know there'll be an access point on the west side of Lexington Avenue there.
And just a quick follow-up. So remind me then, Joe, going north, there's another signal light, a few, half a mile up?
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, Commissioner, it's about I'd say it's about a mile and a half north at Bunker. So there's one at Bunker there.
Okay,
And then that's where the corridor narrows back down to a 2-lane narrow roadway.
right,
One of our future projects coming up here.
okay. Thanks.
Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Jepson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner.
Aye.
Commissioner Brastad.
Aye.
Commissioner Reinert.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
And that also passes unanimously. Item 6.
Recommends approval to enter into a 4-party license agreement with the St. Francis School District, the City of St. Francis, and Anoka County Soil and Water Conservation District for the construction and maintenance of a swale stabilization project. Joe, this is a unique situation.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. It kind of sounds like the intro to a story you'd tell at a poker game. But, so essentially, we've got 4 agencies that'll be partner in this joint powers agreement. Essentially what it is the Anoka Conservation District was successful at securing funding through a grant program to improve essentially along the east side of Rum River Boulevard there is a long channel or ditch where the water drains off the St. Francis School District's site there. You can see there's a large parking lot there. All that water drains off into that ditch, goes north along Rum River Boulevard, and eventually goes west under our road and out to the river. Over time, that ditch has continued to erode. So again, the Anoka Conservation District did their homework, did an application for funding, they secured that. Along with all funding that we deal with, there's always strings attached. So in this case, one of the requirements was there had to be a 25-year maintenance agreement put in place to make sure that we're preserving the improvements that are put in, someone's maintaining it, someone's operating it. So Anoka's involved in this. Anoka County's involved because it's our roadway. The school district's involved because it's partially on their property and it's their water. Anoka Conservation District's involved because they're the ones that are going to see this project take place. And then our friends at the City of St. Francis have volunteered to step up to maintain this thing for the next 25 years. So again, if you followed all of that, that's the rationale for this joint powers agreement.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the 4-party license agreement?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Brastad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jepson. Discussion on this one? Pretty straightforward. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Meisner.
Aye.
Commissioner Brastad.
Aye.
Commissioner Reinert.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Jepson.
That passes unanimously. Item 7.
Okay. The committee recommends award of a contract in the amount of $99,862,562.80 to Ames Construction for the construction of grade-separated interchanges and associated rail crossings at CASA 56, which is Ramsey Boulevard, and CASA 57, Sunfish Lake Boulevard, at US Highway 10 and 169. Joe, this is a big day. We've done a lot of work to get to this point of awarding this contract.
Yeah, that's correct, Commissioner. So members of the board, happy to announce and bring this before you for approval. This is the award of the contract to Ames Construction for that Ramsey Gateway project that we've had, I don't know how many hundreds of action items. I know the public's probably tired of hearing me talk about those action items, but nonetheless, this is a huge project. It's a culmination of a lot of people's hard work, elected officials, project partners, community members, businesses, residents. The list could go on, but this truly was a joint effort. It's a great point in time here, and we're excited to see this take place. So very happy to present this to you as an action item today.
Thank you, Joe. I'll go ahead and move this. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Schulte. Discussion. Commissioner Schulte.
This might be the biggest contract I've ever been a part of passing. 99 million in one fell swoop is a lot. I mean, we've done big projects, but they've always been to, multiple different vendors, and this seems like a big one. I'm glad it's with Ames. We've had a very positive working relationship with them in the past, and look forward to them completing this project on schedule and under budget.
I will say I was a little sorry to see that Schaefer didn't take a crack at it. I just want to give a shout out to them. The quality work that they've been doing on the Phase 2 is outstanding. In cooperation with the city, of course, trying to plan out every detail, trying to iron as many wrinkles out as possible. They've done just a fantastic job. And while I understand that they have to make business decisions of whatever reasons they didn't, apply for it, I'm sure that Ames is going to do a fantastic job. As commissioners, we go out and we try and find funding. That's our job. We lobby, we try and promote projects, try and get other people's money in the door. Otherwise, our residents have to pay 100% of the bill, which in this case was 300 some million, and not really something Anoka County could bite off. So we needed all of our funding partners in this. But nothing happens until you get to this point and you award the contract. And that's why it's such a momentous day. We don't get out there and move the dirt or drive the equipment, they don't want us doing that. But this is certainly kind of the lift under the wings to deliver a project that so many people, and I often tell this story, it's, we talked a little bit earlier about people saying this is a waste of money, or why are we doing this, or what, you're thinking 20 years out in advance, and they're maybe focused on today. On this particular project out here, it wasn't why, it was when. And to me, that was such an amazing kind of switch from what I'm used to hearing in the public. You don't often hear when. And when you hear when, that roadway, that segment has been a problem for a long time, and everybody knows it. Just this morning, there was an accident. Semi hit a sport utility. It appeared that somebody ran a red light. I'm not sure who, and I don't want to get into that, but nevertheless, it was a very serious accident and at Ramsey Boulevard. And so we continue to see these issues, weekly, if not daily, and so these improvements are going to be much appreciated, certainly by the traveling public, those that live within Anoka County, but also anyone coming through. I mean, this is a corridor that services, northern Minnesota and other states as well. So getting this improved certainly helps everybody, including our constituents. So it's a great joy and a lot of happiness today to get this done. So any further comments on this? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Reinert.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Jepson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Item 8.
The committee recommends award of a contract in the amount of $5,501,680.78 to Redstone Construction. This is for the bridge replacement we talked about earlier at CASA 22 Viking Boulevard over the Rum River in the city of Oak Grove. Joe, anything you want to tell us about this award?
Yeah, Madam Commissioner, we just put a little trick in here for everybody. For those that are following your agenda really closely, if you look at action item number 3, the bridge number is different than the one in this bridge number. So if you caught that, you get a gold star. Essentially, the reason for that is the 2589 number is for the new bridge, and that's what that funding mechanism is tied to. This is the old bridge that we're replacing. So other than that, we're excited to see this one. And other thing to note on this project, this was our engineer's estimate based on bids we've received recently was around 7 million. So this is $1.5 million under what we had expected it to come in based on current market. So very happy to see some low bids here.
So I'm surprised that Commissioner Schulte didn't catch that, but anyways.
Disappointed in myself.
I'm happy to move this, Mr. Chair.
Okay, it's moved by Commissioner Brassad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gamache. Discussion on this one. Commissioner Gamache.
No discussion, I just did want to point out what Joe had said. We are under the engineer's estimate by quite a bit, so that's great. So maybe bidding world's coming back a little bit. We'll see some better bids going on in next year and in the future. But thanks, Joe.
Further discussion on this one? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Reinert,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte, Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Jepson, Commissioner Meisner,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye. And that concludes my transportation report.
Thank you, Commissioner Brassad. We will move on to the IG report, and Commissioner Reiner.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me get it up on my screen here. There it is. Okay, we held my committee meeting on September 27th, 2023, and there was no public comment. Do have one action item before you today, and the committee recommends the county board adopt Resolution 2023 IG-05, resolution approving special law authorizing the county of Anoka to levy property taxes to incur debt for public safety improvements and equipment. A little history on this, basically JLEC, that's an organization that was formed with all of the public safety entities in Anoka County, the sheriff's office, and all the police departments in various cities. The recent activity that they had was to get a communications system in place, and that took about 10 years and $8 million. Going forward, the group wanted to continue to meet to discuss various public safety needs of the county, and this special legislation allows that to happen. I'm in support of this. Some of the changes that were made as far as actually implementing this, any kind of, I guess, additional levy is that the county board has final approval on that, and that's what drew me to a comfort level of this legislation going through and for us to act on it today. Personally, unless the entire county and every person in this county benefits from any dollar spent, I wouldn't probably be in support of approving any levy. And that's the purpose of this, is to have a county-wide benefit for the purpose of public safety. So I guess I would like to move and adopt this resolution 2023 IG-05.
Okay, the resolution's been offered by Commissioner Reiner. Discussion on this one. Yes, Commissioner Meisner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to echo some of Commissioner Reinert's sentiments about it, yeah, I'm glad that this happened. I think it is a needful and good tool for this body, which is JLAC, to have for future investments that they might need. Obviously, the recent years, I think, have proven to everybody how important public safety is in general, and so this will allow them to, fund the projects that they all collectively agree on. So, thank you.
Commissioner Schulte.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the public's clarification, JLAC is an acronym for Joint Law Enforcement Council.
And then I wanted to further clarify, too, we had indicated in the last board meeting that there is no public safety levy this year and/or regional rail levy this year. This is to prepare in the event of an approval of a project. So I don't want to clear up any confusion on that. This is just kind of laying the groundwork that in the event that there's a project that everyone agrees on that's going to be county-wide usage and necessary, then there's a vehicle through which we can levy property taxes for that to pay for it. So if there's no further discussion, I will do a roll call vote on this, please.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Jepson,
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Reiner.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously.
All right, next items are just informational. We had a discussion on a proposed ordinance for the prohibition on the use of cannabis on county-owned properties, and then we also had an update and discussed legislative platform items for license and passport services. And that completes my report today. And back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Reiner. We'll move on to the Parks Committee report, and Commissioner Gamache.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Parks Committee met on October 3rd at Wargo Nature Center, and we had no action items. We have a couple informational items just to mention here. One of them was the committee was informed on the grant funds from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources Shade Tree Program Bonding Grant. And this is, the DNR has a total of $10 million available in bond dollars that are available for helping us work on some of these tree problems that we have throughout the park system. And we're looking for $500,000 to come to Anoka County. That'll help us clean up the emerald ash borer issues that we've had throughout the parks. Some of you may have noticed in many areas of the parks, you'll see these plethora sometimes of dead trees, and it takes some time to get rid of them after they've gotten to that point. We got to take them down, and then we also have to cut them up and get rid of this, everything down into the roots and take out all the stumps. So there's a cost to that, and we want to make sure that we are able to keep other ash trees that might be in the area. So we are looking to get some money to do that. So we're going to move forward with getting that funding. The other part that we talked about a little bit was the execution of a contract with the Anoka Conservation District for a cedar tree revetment on the Rum River, which is basically in the amount of $85,000. But it's something to help control erosion along the Rum. We've been using this and working with the Anoka Conservation District for a number of years in different areas along the Rum River. Like I said, it's a way to control the erosion on the banks, and it works very well. Jeff Perry is here today. If anybody wants another, I'm sure we're all pretty much aware of how the cedar trees work so well in this regard, but he gives a good information out there to let us know exactly how great a system this works and how in some areas of the county and on the Rum we've already used it several times. So this is another good project, and again another sample of us working with the Anoka Conservation District on keeping the rivers open and keeping, hopefully not all that soot is getting back into the river where we have issues. And another one thing I wanted to bring up, we had a great program that was with Andover High School where the students got together to clean up some of areas along the Rum, right? It was in the Rum River where they were cleaning them up. Yeah, and what happened is someone reported that there were some tires in areas because the Rum is low before, of course, all the rain that we just received. It's gone up a little bit. But in early September, they were noticing some tires popping up. And this group from Andover High School got together, I want to say 20, 30 students out there. And canoes, picking up tires, and the final total, I think, was
220?
220, which seems to be a lot. So, for anybody that might think about throwing a tire in the river, yeah, we got people to clean it up, but yeah, don't do that. And I think some of it comes from erosion, or just comes from when you have flooding going on, things like that, and comes from farm fields that people even forgotten that there's tires near the river, and they got washed in. But a great job. I salute the students. We're actually sending them off a letter, maybe sending some discount Bunker Beach certificates so that they can go to Bunker Beach next summer as a thank you for the work that they did in removing 220 tires out of the Rum River. So that was a great update that we received from Jeff, and I appreciate the hard work of the Anoka High School students that did that. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schulte.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gamache, I prefer to think that that's 220 tire swings that have failed. It makes me feel better than to think somebody might have abandoned it.
Yeah, when they go over the river and they broke finally. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the work that's being done on the Rum River. I know that there's a lot of people interested in this. Obviously, we have a lot of water fluctuation. We have areas that are now impassable for any sort of watercraft due to the sand that washes in. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Perry for putting together what was going to be a Rum River Float. We had TJ Bates with the DNR, Jameson Wendell, we had Ron Shera, Chris Lord, and Brady Swanson. I don't think he was able to make it, but it was going to be a day of going out and kind of seeing some of the issues that are on the Rum River. This is a resource that I talked to my dad. He's 85. He used to play along the Rum River, and people do that, or they fish, or they use it to recreate. And it's a resource certainly in our area that we need to protect. And it's, some people may not know this, but it's a world-class smallmouth fishery. So, and even walleyes are coming down. You know, it feeds, I don't know if everyone knows this, but if you drive up 169, you're adjacent to Lake Mille Lacs, you'll see kind of a little dam kind of forming off the side of Lake Mille Lacs. That's the start of the Rum River. And it comes, snakes all the way down here. And so protecting this asset is very important. I know the county has spent significant dollars in matching other dollars to try and do this revetment work. And it's just, you know, we certainly want to thank the Nook County Conservation District for their hard work in identifying projects and continuing to keep that ball rolling to try and protect this asset. So again, thank you, Jeff, for that coordinated effort. Unfortunately, we got our torrential rains. We weren't upset about the rains, but it did kind of torpedo our effort to get out on the river. We still were able to meet and still be able to kind of bring the DNR up to speed on some of the challenges that we're having here. And so that was a very successful event nonetheless. So thank you, Jeff. Commissioner Schulte.
Mr. Chair, before we conclude Parks report, I'm wondering if either Commissioner Gamache or if Jeff Perry could share with us, we have a recent washout of a trail on Coon Creek down by the dam, and it's pretty substantial. The detour is pretty substantial. So I think we should, if it's okay to share it with the public at this point, I would wonder if either of you would do that for us, please.
Yeah, no, that's perfect because Jeff had talked to me a little bit about what's happening and how we have to get it out to the public on social media and our website and everything else. So this would be a perfect place to do it. Jeff?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jeff Perry, Park Director for Anoka County. Yeah, due to the recent rains, we had north of a 5-inch rain event in Coon Rapids, and it caused some additional erosion on Coon Creek near the confluence of the Mississippi River. So it actually put into peril the regional trail that traverses through that particular area. So we have identified a detour at the very downstream end of Coon Rapids Dam Regional Park near Pleasure Creek in the city of Coon Rapids. And we'll be detouring folks out to East River Road onto Coon Rapids Boulevard and then eventually over to Egret and back into the park. So it's a major detour, but it's premised on public safety and keeping the public safe because the erosion is right up next to the regional trail there. So we do have plans in place and grant dollars in place to replace the pedestrian bridge and replace that section of trail at Coon Rapids Dam Regional Park. It's in the design phase right now. It will be bid out over the winter and constructed in 2024. So there will be a temporary inconvenience for all of the regional trail users in that area. It's a very heavily used trail. However, when it's done, there'll be a brand new pedestrian bridge, brand new trail that'll be there for public use.
Thank you, Jeff. And as he indicated, we knew that there were some issues already at that trail. So that's why we were going to move it away during the construction of the new bridge. So we were already planning to do that. But then the rains took care of the rest of it for us. So we didn't really have a choice but to kind of change that out. So thank you, Commissioner Schulte, for bringing that up.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Appreciate it. Okay, thank you for that report. We will move on to the agenda item number 9, which is the prohibition on use of cannabis on county-owned properties. We have ordinance number 2023-1, and we have 3 different options that are going to be presented here today. And the differences of the 3 options would be found within the second paragraph of 1.1. Where it says, Anoka County is committed to its mission to protect and enhance the health of its citizens, employees, and visitors by providing a safe and clean environment. That would be option number 2. It then goes on to say Anoka County Board of Commissioners finds that a prohibition on the public use of cannabis on its properties is necessary to promote and protect the health and well-being of its employees, its clients, and general public, ensuring that they are not exposed to the risks known and unknown of exposure to secondhand smoke, vapor, and aerosols and other forms of cannabis use. That would be the first item. Option A would include all of that. Option B would strike that second portion of it, and option 3 would just strike after aerosols and other forms of cannabis use. We had as Commissioner Reinhardt indicated, we had I would say a robust discussion in the IG committee concerning this. We had the sheriff present and was able to give his input on enforcement of this. And so I think that was one of the reasons why we postponed this discussion from a prior board meeting to now. And so now before us here this morning is just to determine what option we would like to go with. I have Commissioner Jepson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion to support option 2.
Okay.
If that's appropriate time to do that.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Schulte.
Yeah, I won't be supporting option 2. I don't think it's robust enough. I don't think it explains exactly what we're concerned with. I would be supporting option 1, so I'll be voting against the motion.
Okay, further discussion? Commissioner Meiser.
Oh, thank you. And then, okay, so we're discussing option 2 right now, correct? Okay. Yeah, I will be supporting this, and I want to just thank for appreciation. I was not at that committee meeting, but obviously you guys really had as Chair Look said, a healthy debate about it. And honestly, for when we passed the policy, and I own this, I actually had some reservation about some of the language in the policy as well, and I did not speak up. The reason I'll be supporting this, I mean, it's not that it's necessarily quote unquote bad to be more thorough, as Commissioner Schulte says, but it's just unnecessary, and it, in my opinion, strikes a little bit more of a morality thing. It's nothing to do with law or good policy. So that is why I will be supporting number 2. But again, I'm just really thankful that this discussion was had and we're able to, figure some of these details out. Thank you.
Any further? Commissioner Reinhardt.
Yeah, I guess, there, as you mentioned, there was a robust conversation about this, as there should have been. And I guess maybe we can have the sheriff come up and, is he here? And I guess, maybe reiterate, some of how actually enforcement is handled in, on public property or I should say in Anoka County property and parks and such like that. And mostly it's through complaint and through, it's not like we have a bunch of people going around checking whether people are drinking in parks and things like that. It's mostly through complaint.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, my name is Bill Jacobson. I serve as the Chief Deputy at the Sheriff's Office. And yeah, to follow up on the conversation we had at the IG meeting is the enforcement of this ordinance will be complaint driven just based on the resources we have. It would be if we receive a call, this ordinance gives us a mechanism on county property to take some sort of enforcement action or to issue a warning to try to resolve it. And we have seen complaints of this nature, so.
So I do have a question for you. On that second paragraph where it says the exposure to secondhand smoke, vapor, aerosols, it kind of gives some specificity to what is commonly maybe used out there. Is that going to be a point of argument for somebody, say they're using on a public county property and somebody reports them, and then the sheriff's office rolls in, and the person says, well, you didn't say I couldn't use, vape, or, wasn't listed, or, everyone argues, right? I mean, that's just the way things work. Everyone's, should have probably been an attorney, but they aren't, and they argue nonetheless. So do we need some specificity in terms of items that we would commonly find that say, no, it says this item right here, and you have that item, therefore, you can A, choose to leave, or B, we can cite you for it. I mean, that's kind of my understanding of, it's not a throw cuffs on them and throw them in the back of a paddy wagon. It's just to say, you can't really be doing this and you should move along. Can you maybe a little bit of the specificity kind of comment on that a little bit?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I can comment on that. Yes, to comment on the last part of your question, yes, this would be a citation. Should we go an enforcement route where we're not able to resolve something without enforcement, it would be a citation. There'd be no booking someone or anyone going to jail for something like this. It would be similar to a speeding ticket where they could either pay it or they would have to go to court. We would enforce based on, and I'll defer to the county attorney too, we would enforce based on Section 2, prohibited activity. So that, I think, gives us the authority there instead of the purpose and scope part to take action, but I'll defer to the county attorney.
Mr. Chair, members of the county board, as you know, this has been a debate among the board about really the purpose and intent of this, not really the enforcement mechanism of it. This is a petty misdemeanor, so it's not a criminal offense, it's a civil offense, carries with it only a fine. It's not an arrestable offense, so nobody's going to be arrested and taken into custody. There's been a public hearing on this, so I wanted that to be clear on the record here today. We would have another public hearing if there were efforts by the board to change the enforcement mechanism, to change the real details on this. This is merely a policy statement by the county board about why this is important to Anoka County. I will say that the original draft that was the draft recommended by our office was actually a pared down version of the purpose and intent statement that was in the policy that the county passed back in July. So option 1 is the original draft of it. Option 2 and option 3, so the blue and the green, came out of the IG committee meeting discussion. Chair of our, or the manager of our civil division was there at that meeting and was listening carefully to the comments of the board and wanted to provide those options to you. I will say it's a pretty uncommon thing for us to be line iteming and editing our advice to the board in a committee meeting. And given that this was really about your voice, the board's voice to the community, I don't have a strong objection to it, but our advice was option 1 to you all. With respect to the specificity, that's not impacted significantly in this purpose statement. I think the chief deputy was absolutely right that the prohibited activity and the definitions that are in the actual ordinance are the specificity they need to enforce it. Thank you.
We got Commissioner Meisner and then Commissioner Brasted.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, I actually have I guess a process question because I do also have some questions within the ordinance under the prohibited activity and some definitions, but I don't know, is this the place to be asking those questions, or are we only voting right now on the intro portion? Or do you see what I'm saying though? Are we just voting right now, motion on the floor of option 2 for purpose and authority? I do have questions about the actual ordinance within it, so I don't know if now is the time to bring it up or not.
I don't think we're dealing with the ordinance today.
You're dealing with a
ordinance.
passage of the whole ordinance.
Correct.
And candidly, I think there have been 6 or 7 meetings of the county board or committees on this very ordinance. And so, unless this board wants to start drafting ordinances in an open board meeting, and problem solving these things that way, I think there's been an opportunity to do it. If there are clarification questions, we can try to respond to those as best we can in this meeting. But I think it's up for a vote, and what I'm understanding the motion to be is a motion to pass the ordinance with option 2, the blue one, as being the purpose statement at the beginning of the ordinance.
That's what I meant to say, is we're not going through the entire ordinance here today. We're just handling this part of it, so. Follow up,
Yeah,
Commissioner Meisner?
follow-up question. Yes, I understand that's what we're discussing, but we're actually going to be passing the full ordinance. So if we're passing the full ordinance, I am saying there is within the ordinance, I have some questions, and I'm just wondering, like, process-wise, when is the time for me to bring up what is in the ordinance, not just what is in the purpose and authority language?
I've got, we'll get back to you on that. I got Commissioner Breasted.
Okay. To address the motion on the floor, option 2, I would not support option 2. I agree with Commissioner Schulte. I think option 1 is better. I think it's more descriptive, and it will help to alleviate any gray areas or things not pointed out. I think just in the long run, it probably helps our officers do their job easier and with less confusion.
Okay, I got Commissioner Reinert, then Commissioner Gamache, then Commissioner Jepson.
Yeah, so, you know, purpose and authority. The important part here is authority. And what we want to do is equip our officers to be able to go into a park, and if somebody's causing some trouble with some of these substances and a nuisance, that they have, that they're armed with a way to deal with the situation. So it's really the authority part of this that's the important part, in my opinion. The purpose part, you know, there's really not that much difference between these. The green one, you know, the green option, for those that don't have this in front of them, they're all color-coded here. The green one, option 3, I think the reason why we took out and other forms of cannabis use is because you can't tell if somebody's going to take one of these THC gummies. And so, and then kind of a moot point even there, if we cross out things in option 2, there's really not that much difference. There's some specificity of the different kinds that are being crossed out here. Actually, if you do cross it out, then it kind of opens it up to just everything. And the first one was the first draft that we, the red one. The first draft that we got that included everything. So, I mean, I'm actually fine with any of these options, and I'm fine with option 2. It does cross out some of the specificity, which then opens it up to just anything, which actually gives the officers more flexibility when coming across, you know, issues in parks or on county property, to be able to then use the authority part to deal with any kind of nuisance or provocative situation. So I'm fine supporting number 2 because of the fact that I think it does give our officers more flexibility to then use 1.2, which is the authority part of this. And so I'll be supporting number 2.
I got Commissioner Gamache.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the purpose and authority, 1.1 purpose, explains the prohibition of public use of cannabis on properties owned, leased, or controlled by the Anoka County. It's straightforward. It's doing it because of the 2023 legislative session where they passed the legalization, but gave us the ability to do this for local units of government. So that is what we are doing. In our parks, for example, we have signage. We have signage near playgrounds. We have signage near different platforms of just if it's just for picnic areas, or if they've got if we have a shelter there and people can hold parties and get-togethers of no smoking, and that includes any kind of smoking. And we do have the ability for people to drink beer and wine in those areas. They can't use hard liquor in those areas. So this kind of falls under the same category as hard liquor. We wanted an ordinance that addresses the fact that that can't be used. We also have signage on our trails for people to not smoke on the trails, including tobacco. So all of those things will be used to affect the first part of the purpose of this this ordinance is to have no smoking in those areas and no use in those areas. And to me, the rest of it didn't matter because as you go down further, you will see information about each type of usage that is not allowed. It's all in there in the ordinance. And I believe, as the Sheriff's Department has said, and the sheriff even said, they would be able to enforce the ordinance as it is either A, B, or C, or 1, 2, or 3, excuse me. So that's why I seconded and will support number 2.
Commissioner Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I absolutely agree with County Attorney Johnson that it is very unusual to line item, and it's a very slippery slope in going against or not embracing 100% of their recommendations because they are the experts in this. And to Commissioner Meisner's question about process and questions, yes, the questions about the process and concerns you might have and definition should have probably been before today. But because I believe, and why I'm made the motion to support option 2, I believe the content in this very specific language is opinion and puts, as Commissioner Meisner had said, more on a moral high ground, and that's one of the conversations we talked about in the IG committee meeting. And it doesn't add to the purpose and authority, nor detract from. It just adds an opinion in here that includes all 7 of us. And I just found that very unique, very different, and I could be wrong that it might be included in other ordinances. But I do think that the intent of this can be covered by other statutes, ordinances, laws, the Clean Air Act, different authority mechanisms that can get us to that same spot without this opinion of content.
Commissioner Meisner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, I'm sorry to belabor this point. However, I did ask the county attorney that I should speak now or forever hold my peace in terms of the ordinance. So going back to some of the commentary, yes, I agree. Ideally, this should have been hashed out earlier than today. I 100% agree with that. I'm not on the IG committee. I was not aware, no one, board chair or administrator, did not tell me that this was on the agenda of which to discuss. So now I'm going to be, asking my questions now, which is the last moment to do so. So the county does not pass ordinances very often, hardly at all. So obviously I'm going to take this seriously. So I read it all and I researched. My question, probably mostly to you, Mr. Attorney, is under the prohibited activity, number 2, in it states, no person shall use cannabis flower, et cetera, or hemp-derived consumer products. So when I looked up the statute that we are basing our ordinance on, which is Minnesota statute 375.51, the hemp-derived consumer products doesn't have any THC in it. So I was a little bit confused about why that is in here if this is about cannabis and not hemp. So that was my one only technical question about that. And I'm sorry, I do want that answered before I vote on it because currently it is in here. And then the only other comment that I'll make is that Stearns County has a very similar, not identical, but very similar ordinance to this. And what they actually did in their written document is they wrote out the definitions, which I think is more transparent and helpful to the public. I don't know about you guys, but as it's written, it says, as defined by Minnesota state statutes, subdivision, blah, blah, blah. And that's all it says. So obviously, we can take initiative to look that up, of which I did, but I think it would be, again, a lot more transparent if we just wrote it out like they did at Stearns County, and again, just for the public. So those are my 2 comments. My question, though, again, goes back to the subdivision 37, and I'm looking at it right now, for hemp-derived consumer products. Doesn't have any THC in it, so I'm just wondering why that's in our ordinance for prohibited use.
Commissioner, the reason that it's in there is that the guidance our office got from the IG committee, which was speaking for this board about drafting this ordinance, was to be as restrictive as possible. And so the effort was made to make it consistent with Minnesota law and the definitions in Minnesota law. We don't know all of what is going to be the evolution of THC or hemp-derived products in our society, how they're going to be distributed, how they're going to be possessed, how they're going to be used or consumed. So the effort here was to create a broad and encompassing ordinance. Certainly there are opportunities down the road if we find that there are interpretation problems or inconsistency problems, or even we decide that there's a better practice for this board could take up an amendment to the ordinance as it is written right now. But the goal here was to make it as, and this is the guidance our office got from members of the committee, to make it a restriction on use, not possession, and to make it as restrictive as possible and consistent with Minnesota law. So that's why it was written the way it was written.
Just a follow-up comment then on that. Okay, all right. So I personally don't like that just because of the definition of hemp-derived consumer product, but I hear what you're saying, and I can live with that. So thank you for answering that question. That was the only technical question I had. And then I don't know what your thoughts are about, again, spelling out all the definitions in our actual resolution or ordinance, but I do think that would be helpful.
The problem you have with that is then if the law changes down the road, you have to attend to changing your ordinance to then match the law, or your ordinance gets out of sync with the law. So that's why it was written in that manner.
So then if the law changes though and the subdivision numbers change, does that matter too? Do we still have to do that?
Yeah, we would have to update our ordinance. Yeah.
Right, okay. So it's kind of.
That's pretty rare, to be honest, but.
So Commissioner Meisner, if you're not comfortable with this, you can vote against it. That's your choice today, okay, number one. Number two, when we postponed this at the last county board meeting, okay, or at the county board meeting in which we discussed this robustly and postponed it, we set it to a time certain date on the IG committee. You were here. You helped participate in that IG committee. You were aware of that date. Now, perhaps you forgot what that date was. So you did disparage staff a little bit in saying that they needed to update you or keep you up to date or whatever. I'm not sure that's their job. However, you were aware of that date. So because you weren't there, I'm sorry. We missed you, but certainly it was discussed at that point. So for setting the record straight, okay? Commissioner Meisner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, you are correct. Thank you for that reminder. I do own that. I do disagree with you. Typically, when it's a full board discussion, I am reminded by somebody. As you know, we are all very busy on several different committees. So I don't really appreciate the tone that you're taking with me in this moment. But as you stated, that is a fact of which I'm happy to own that fact.
Okay,
but I don't appreciate that tone. Thank you.
Okay, noted. Commissioner Schulte.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I find this ordinance important to pass. It's something that I want passed. It's something that we should have done a long time ago, and it should pass today. I'm not particularly pleased with option 2. I prefer option 1, and I really wish we would switch, but it doesn't sound like we're going to. But I think the ordinance is incredibly important, and this is a step in the right direction, and maybe I'll move to, in the future, move to amend this ordinance back to option 1.
Commissioner Reiner.
Yeah, I just want to mention that, in policy, sometimes vagueness is good to have. It's good to have, as I mentioned before, purpose and authority. Option 2 crosses out the specificity, which does actually give our law enforcement more authority, makes it more restrictive. I think the most restrictive option here is number 2, even though it doesn't have all of those, all that specificity in there, because it opens it up to, interpretation for the officer at the time, and I want to arm them with as much ability to keep peace and order on our properties as possible. Also, it stands the test of time too, because if you have things that are very specific, then when things change or there's a new thing introduced in this category, then you have to reopen the book and address the ordinance that you passed. So, I mean, again, speaking in favor of option 2, it does not have the specificity. It does give our officers more authority and, I guess, opinion, how to handle the situation. They don't have to look this up and say, well, is this one or that one in there? And then to your point too, Commissioner Meisner, I think that more specificity in what you're trying to have added in, again, probably isn't that necessary either. So, yeah, some vagueness in policy is good. Too much isn't, but some vagueness is good. And in this case, I'm comfortable with this. And like you said, Commissioner Schulte, we can revisit again if we want to. But we've talked enough about this. Let's get her done.
Yeah, I will be opposing the motion in second only because, again, we allow our attorneys to draft something. They've drafted it. We rely on their expertise for this, and we can sit here and light on and veto things all day long. But I don't know that any of us have an attorney, certificate degree. So at some point we have to take their recommendation, and I'm certainly going to be doing that by voting yes, option 2, and voting for item 1, option 1. So, Commissioner Reiner.
I think, though, that our county attorney did say, or I guess share some indifference between the 3.
Mr. Chair, members of the county board, the view that I have with respect to this is not really a public policy view. It's a view as to what is in the best interest of having an enforceable ordinance so that our law enforcement, our employees, our staff, and the people of Anoka County understand kind of what the bright lines are and what the rules of the road are. With respect to the policy statement, if the judgment of this board is that it's okay to be, or even in some circumstances better to be vague about it, that's something I think that needs to be clear on the record here, because it is actually a defense or a challenge to a law that it is vague or ambiguous. So the ordinance as it is written, the enforcement provisions, the actual provisions that make it a petty misdemeanor, I think are sufficiently clear and clearly defined so that they are not vague and ambiguous. The policy provisions, I think, and I want to make clear for you my view of the difference between 1 and 2. 1 contains a finding by this board that, and I'll just read it here so the public knows what we're talking about. The Anoka County Board of Commissioners finds that a prohibition on the public use of cannabis on its properties is necessary to promote and protect the health and well-being of its employees, its clients, the general public, ensuring that they are not exposed to the risks known and unknown of exposure to secondhand smoke, vapor, and aerosols, and other forms of cannabis use. So the finding that it's necessary, and it's necessary to promote and protect the health and well-being of its employees is, I think, helpful for those who are explaining in the future, why did you pass this ordinance? Because we thought it was necessary. When you remove that, that is missing from it. Does it materially change the enforceability of this? No, I don't believe it does. And so we'll still have an enforceable ordinance. It just won't be as clear, I think, to the public or to those that review it in the future what this board was thinking at the time and whether it was necessary or not.
All right, one last comment, Commissioner Reinert.
Yeah, and I just want to, follow up with your comments, Mr. Attorney. Number 2 does include, Anoka County is committed to its mission to protect and enhance the health of its citizens, employees, and visitors by providing a safe and clean environment. And I think that's, probably the most important sentence, and it was kept.
Okay. We have a motion, second. Without further discussion, then, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed. How many oppositions do we have?
2.
2. Okay. So passes with option 2, and we'll put this thing to bed. All righty. We'll move on to additional county board agenda item, which is to consider the following: adopting Resolution 2023-M7, a resolution approving the revisions to the 2022-2024 collective bargaining agreement between the County of Anoka and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 49, representing the Highway Parks and Maintenance Unit, contract number C000998.
Resolution.
There's a resolution's been offered by Commissioner Brasted. Discussion on this one. Commissioner Meisner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, just commentary. I'm so glad that this is happening today. I'm sure not as glad as transportation. And as you guys know, I've been very consistent, like when the whole Helios thing rolled out, that we should be addressing all employees. There are just some gaps still, but we are working on that. And I also just want to recognize and thank the current staff of the local 49ers, which are in parks and transportation. Last year, we just happened to have one of the worst historic snowfalls. The work was immense, and to not be able to have this tool in place during that time, I just recognize what a hardship that was for everyone. So I did just want to acknowledge that as well. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Jepson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, very happy to support this. It's a long time coming, and I know that this would, if not to happen today, would directly impact those of everyone in our community due to just the plowing that you guys provide such an exceptional service. So I'm happy to support this, glad to be supporting this, and look forward to when the snow does start hitting, you guys will be able to get back out there fully staffed.
Okay, further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, or should we do a roll call vote? Let's do a roll call vote on that. Sorry. Aye.
Excuse me. Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Jepson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meisner.
Aye.
Commissioner Brasted.
Aye.
Commissioner Reinert.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Pass unanimously. And I believe that brings us to the end of our county board meeting. Unless there's anything else to come before us here today, we will stand adjourned. Thank you for being here.
Are you